For a second, I'd like you to imagine a boy named Bob. Bob is a junior in high school who's 6 feet 5. Every morning, Bob wakes up at 5 to practice basketball. Because with a height like his, how can he not play the sport? According to his classmates at least. Actually, all Bob wants to do is play soccer instead. Bob also wears Gucci and Balenciagas to school. Because all of his friends do. So Bob's worried that his reputation will take a hit if he doesn't. The only thing that's taking a hit right now is his wallet. Finally, even Bob's homework is dictated by others. Even though Bob is good at maths, all he wants to do is study science. But his parents and teachers have pressured him to take only math courses, leaving Bob stressed and unmotivated. Although this is an extreme example, like Bob, so many of our daily actions are dictated by outer expectations. Whether it's playing basketball, clothes, or even classes, we live for others, which is why so many people end up losing their self identity at some point in life. So, what exactly is self identity? It is, in essence, the unique beliefs and motivations that define and drive an individual. Each baby starts as a blank slate. They slowly come to discover and accept their identity throughout the years. As you may have noticed, some people seem to feel more comfortable with their identity than others. Take Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, for example. He's big, he's strong, and most of all, he's confident. You can tell that he's comfortable in his own skin. But for some, coming to terms with their own identity can be an immense struggle. One of those people was me. The primary reason for this was my introversion. As a child, I was a loser. My lunchtimes would be spent in the sandbox, digging holes instead of playing soccer with others. This loneliness drove me to please others from a very young age in order to feel valued and accepted. To do this, I developed an adaptation of sorts humor. It seemed like a win win situation. Whenever I did something awkward, it could be improvised into something funny, right? This worked so well that by kindergarten, I had actual friends. But deep down, there was a nagging feeling that I wasn't good enough, that I was still insignificant compared to the people around me. And it was this fear that I wasn't good enough, in which I lost myself. Over the years, my jokes became increasingly radical. In order to prove myself, I was willing to try anything, even doing and saying outrageous things. By freshman year, I had become a meme, a clown who would voluntarily swallow toothpaste or streak across the field shirtless just to gain some laughs. On the outside, I may have seemed happy, but deep down, I felt lost. Was I being a clown because I personally enjoyed it or because my peers did? The truth is, I had no idea anymore. My search for external validation had consumed me until every second, every minute was dedicated to making others laugh. Like the clown in this picture, I wrestled with personal problems under a facade of happiness. My anxiety skyrocketed. I constantly felt worthless. Somewhere along the line, my struggle for acknowledgement had twisted my very identity. Humor had gone from something to the only thing that defined me. So, what did I learn from this experience? People are difficult. No matter how hard you try to please them, it's never going to seem enough. By constantly investing in this task, my own motivations and desires became blurred. Sometimes putting the effort into relationships just doesn't seem worth it. But in actuality, connections we form with others are the stepping stones to inner fulfillment. According to Erik Erikson, a prominent German psychologist, relationships are the key to developing self identity. His theory of psychosocial development divides life into 8 stages: infancy, childhood, preschool, and so on. Adolescence is arguably the most important stage due to its overlying challenge relationships. During this period, it can be tough navigating a growing landscape of people and personal growth. However, finding relatable people can offer unprecedented amounts of support and encouragement. The key is confidence, self exploration, and ultimately, a lifelong sense of identity. But for those of you who struggle socially like me, life can feel lonely and unfulfilling. This can lead to role confusion, which Erickson describes as insecurity surrounding purpose and motivations, exactly what I had experienced. With both identity and role confusion carrying consequences long past adolescence, Erickson shows the importance in forming relationships. So, how can we find both happiness in ourselves and these relationships at the same time. My solution was prioritization, learning to value myself amongst others. This epiphany came in spring of last year when schools across Japan shut down due to COVID-19. Confined to online learning, I initially felt a strange sense of relief. With nobody else except for my family at home, there was no more pressure to be constantly humorous. I finally felt free. But as the weeks dragged into the month, the toll of isolation began to set in. While a lack of schoolmates alleviated social pressure, it didn't solve my unhappiness. Instead, it led me to realize just how lonely and unremarkable I really was. Nobody contacted me except about schoolwork. My days consisted of classes and sleep. With no true friends or hobbies, my identity continued to fade. Everything seemed gray and dull. Then one day I realized something. If everything I did in life was for outer approval, then maybe the solution was seeking inner approval. This brings us to the first person to prioritize in life yourself. To do this, I began working on some of my obvious flaws athletics, procrastination, and so much more. And the more I worked, the better I understood my own strengths and weaknesses. It gave me tangible goals to work towards, boosting my determination and confidence. Although it was exhausting, I could finally sleep easy, knowing that my life had direction now. By prioritizing myself, I found purpose. But of course, it's impossible to attempt everything alone. This brings us to the second group of people to prioritize in life family. During the COVID lockdown, I realized that the backbone of success were my parents and younger brother. Whenever I finished an intense workout or struggled with an assignment, my parents were always there to help. Even my brother's antics, which used to seem so annoying, energized me when giving up seemed like the easy option. It became apparent that no matter how hard I worked, success was impossible without the help of my family. With this realization, practicing thankfulness became a daily routine. It enabled me to appreciate their help even more, driving me to work harder. By focusing on appreciating my family, I found motivation. Finally, the third group of people to prioritize is friends. It may seem strange that this is placed at the bottom of the list. However, I learned during lockdown that the key to forming successful friendships is developing personal and familiar relationships first. As I worked on developing my own purpose and motivations, I found new interests and goals. This gave me a wider pool of similarities to find in others, making social interactions so much easier. Humor wasn't my only defining trait anymore. I could finally express myself in other ways. During lockdown, my Snap score grew by 100,000. Translated, I found and developed many friendships online. It felt good to have friends who could understand and support my goals. It felt even better to be able to support them back. There was no constant urge to seek external validation anymore. I finally felt free. By developing my own interests and beliefs, I found friends. And by finding friends, I found support. Sometimes we can feel burdened by the pressure to please others. We can lose track of our own beliefs and motivations, leading to confusion and anxiety. Gradually, I learned that the key to fulfillment isn't having the most friends or even being the funniest. No, it's self care. Even 2,000 years ago, Socrates understood the power of self care. Why? Because by valuing yourself, we aren't only benefiting ourselves but others too. It's satisfying to know that my growing skills and abilities aren't only serving myself, but also my friends and family better. It's encouraging to know that through this process, I'm becoming a better person for it. Humor is still a big part of my life, of course, but now it peacefully coexists with my other beliefs and motivations, rather than fighting for dominance. So remember that while other people are crucial in life, you matter too. As human beings, each and every one of us deserve to pursue our own happiness. And it's this self care that bolsters our sense of identity, helping us form better relationships with others in the process. So take the time to breathe, relax, and think about yourself for once. Like David Icke, a former football player, once said, the greatest prison we live in is fear of what other people think. Don't let this prison trap you. Live your own life.